Honor and respect. Honor and respect, honor and respect. Divine all blessed greetings and salutations. It is another edition of Revolutionary Hoodoo, New Orleans Voodoo Secrets and Recipes. Voodoo Hoodoo 101, power promoted, sponsored, and supported by NOIVD, New Orleans International Vodou Day. Greetings and salutations this evening, one and all. Thank you for joining us again for another live podcast of Voodoo Hoodoo 101. We're certainly grateful for your continued participation and support by way of our various social media platforms, Facebook, our page, group, profiles, our LinkedIn, our YouTube, Twitter X, and always thankful for our IG, Instagram listeners and participants. We invite you to join us, sponsor us, donate, volunteer, support our continued ongoing GoFundMe campaign as we move into our fourth annual New Orleans International Vodou Day. When we speak of authentic African traditional religion, of Voodoo, Haitian Vodou, and Louisiana Voodoo, and the many branches of diasporic African spiritual science, we are not speaking of relics, curiosities, or museum pieces. We are speaking of living technologies, ancestral systems of balance, justice, healing, and alignment that survived the greatest rupture in human history and still breathe, walk, and work in the new world. And nowhere is that survival, and nowhere is that survival more visible, more persistent, and more defiantly alive than right here in New Orleans, Louisiana. New Orleans is not simply a city. It is a crossroads, a portal, a place where the motherland never fully left, where the spirits of Fan, Ewe, Yoruba, Congo, Akan, and Igbo people braided themselves into the soil, the river, the music, the language, and the very rhythm of daily life. And when we talk about authentic ATR, Aboriginal African traditional religious systems in the New World, we are talking about the ways African people preserved their cosmologies under unimaginable pressure, how they hid their spirits inside saints, inside songs, inside dances, inside herbal formulas, inside the quiet work of the night. And we are talking about how the enslaved refused to let their gods die. And in New Orleans, that refusal became a legacy. The tradition that outsiders call voodoo with four O's, and that insiders know as Vodou, Haitian Vodou, Voudon from West Africa, root work, conjure, and the work, is not a single religion. It is a continuum, a Creole spiritual language born from survival, resistance, and creativity. It is the memory of Ouida carried across the Atlantic. It is the discipline of Haitian Vodou Reglement adapted to a new landscape. It is the Congo crossroads, the Yoruba Orisha, the Dahomian Voudon, the Catholic saints, the native nations of Louisiana, and the lived realities of Black Creole people, all speaking to one another, all shaping one another, all becoming something new without ever losing what was old. And when we speak of authentic practice, we're not talking about Hollywood caricatures, tourist shop dolls, or sensationalized myths. Authentic ATR in New Orleans is community based, ancestor centered, and rooted in responsibility. It is the tending of altars, the honoring of the dead, the keeping of promises, the work of healing, divination, protection, and justice. It is the understanding that spirits are not abstract concepts. They are family, they are nation, they are memory, and they are presence. The legacy of New Orleans voodoo is not a ghost story. It is a story of continuity. It is the story of mothers of the work, women like Marie Laveau, yes, but also the countless unnamed priestesses, midwives, herbalists, and diviners who kept the tradition alive in kitchens, in backyards, in prayer circles, in Congo Square, and in the quiet corners of the city where the spirits gather. It is the story of Black men who carried the Congo and Nganga traditions into the New World, who worked the roots, who read the signs, who served as healers, protectors, and spiritual scientists for their communities. It is the story of families who passed down rituals, songs, and formulas through generations, even when they had to hide them behind closed doors. It is the story of the river, which remembers everything. It is the story of the storms, which speak loudly. It is the story of the ancestors who never stopped walking with us. And today in 2026, authentic ATR is not only alive, it is evolving. It is responding to new conditions, new challenges, new spirits born from new eras. And we honor hurricane spirits, street guardians, musician spirits, and ancestors of pandemics and social movements. We honor the spirits of migration, displacement, and return. We honor the spirits that rise from the land itself, land that has absorbed centuries of prayer, ritual, suffering, joy, and transformation. New Orleans Vodou is not frozen in time. It is a living archive, a breathing ecosystem of African spiritual intelligence, a testament to the fact that African people did not lose their traditions. They adapted them, protected them, and carried them forward. So as we begin tonight's conversation, I invite you to remember this. Authentic African traditional religions in the New World is not about imitation. It is not about performance. It is not about aesthetics. It is about lineage, discipline, relationship, and service. It is about knowing who you are and who you come from and who walks with you. It is about honoring the spirits that sustained us through enslavement, segregation, erasure, and misunderstanding, and recognizing that those same spirits are still here, still working, still guiding, still correcting, still blessing. And so as I invite my beloved co-hosts and panelists and those in the chat who wish to join the conversation, this is New Orleans. This is the crossroads. This is the living legacy of African traditional religion in the New World. And today, we speak its truth. And so again, we invite you to join us, volunteer, support, donate, contribute to this growing legacy and endeavor. New Orleans Annual International Voodoo Day, now in our 4th year. Greetings and salutations, beloved Queen Mother Bianca Johnson Plessy, and our moderator, the Queen Mother Beloved Tony Val Martinez. Greetings and salutations to you all. Good evening. What say you and how you doing?
Good evening, everyone in the listening audience. Sister Bianca, so good to see you. Good evening. How is everyone? How are you doing, sister?
Good evening to everyone out there, and I am doing good. I had
That's good.
there were some things that I had some questions about and wanted to share also. I noticed that Divine Prince was saying that we are approaching we know we approaching hurricane season. And when we're talking about like our ancestors and the spirits and the gods and the goddess and um different, what you want to call it, different lowers of spirits that we work with as we approaching to hurricane season. And I know that sometimes we do have a ceremony that is for Dantar, to help turn the storms around and to also help protect, like shield and protect the people in the city and everywhere else as we approach the
Mhm.
season. But I also want to know what are some other um, ones that other people would be able to build an altar or host like a ceremony, just for the part of the her as we approaching hurricane season.
Well, when you say other people, who are we talking about?
Like other
Initiated
people
folk?
like no other people out in the community, like that's like how everybody have um different gods or goddess that they work with. Like everybody may not host a ceremony or go to Dantar for hurricane or ceremony. Like some people may do like Shango or Oya, like just different Yoruba. That's what I wanted to know.
Well, again, it depends on their lineage, their
Hmm.
level of education and awareness, and perhaps even what tradition they are actively initiated in.
Hmm.
I don't support folk who have no relationship to the Loa, to the Orisha, to the Abasan, to the Voodoo, to all the spirits who don't have a connection by blood, by lineage, by ceremony, by practice. It could be a very dangerous thing. I can remember some 20 years ago, I used to stay up all night. I used to have severe insomnia, and I would listen to Coast AM. Uh, at that time, that was produced and hosted by Art Bell. May he rest in heaven. I'm not sure who's producing it and hosting it now, if it's still on the radio. But it would come on every night for 8 hours, a 4 hour show, and then they would restart it again and play it for another 8 hours. So for us who was working graveyard shift and working at night, it was a go-to programming for us to listen to if we didn't want to listen to just regular talk radio. And they often talked about eliciting the masses, people, to move against a storm or to block some other natural occurrence. And there were times when people would get involved in that practice and would increase the strength of the storm or create a disaster in another location, but not necessarily where they are. So I'm very careful about instructing uninitiated folk to access Loa, Orisha, Abason spirits that they have not officially developed relationship with. Now, what can they do? They certainly can pray and invoke the power and the spirit of their own ancestors for protection, defense, to warn us, to assist us, and certainly in moving forward. They can evoke the natural elements, earth, water, fire, air, and provide offering and ceremony to the spirits of nature, and ask them to provide balance, stability, clarity, and awareness. But I really don't support what we see going on in social media, folks creating shrines and altars because they saw it online, because they read it in a book, because somebody said, oh, you need to be working with this particular spirit, and they have no official, traditional relationship to the practice. And last night, Bianca, I know you weren't here. You might have an opportunity to go back and listen to it. Last night, I put out a call for authenticity in ATR. We have got to move beyond the idea that we can work in isolation. We can do it by ourselves. We don't need mentorship. We don't need community. We don't need training. We don't need structure. We've got to move beyond that. As the world is shifting, our governments are shifting, our politics are shifting, certainly our climates are shifting. And so we are being called to the elements again. We are being called back to nature. We've gotten away from nature. We've lost our connection to nature. A lot of folk don't even know where their food comes from, what's in it, or how it's produced. So when we start talking about operating and moving with the elements of nature, it could be a very, very volatile thing if we aren't clear about how to move in balance, in peace, in serenity, and then invoke that in nature.
And a while back, I did a post I discovered from me wandering all over doing research. I created a whole human body from flora and fauna that grows wild and naturally. Every part of the human body, every part, I do mean every part, has a flower that looks exactly like it. From the brain to the feet, to the lips, to the eyes, the ears. Some of them are funguses that grow. And when I say fungus, don't get all because a orchid is a fungus. So they be beautiful, but that's how connected to nature we are. There's a flower that looks just like a human heart, a flower that looks just like the kidneys, the lungs. It's a double flower. And if you in the audience would just go Google that, Google flowers that look like human body parts, you will be surprised. The tree branches, the blood, the sap, as they call it, every flower, every tree has sap, just like every person has blood. They call it sap, but it's the blood of that plant. The veins that run through the leaves, like the veins that run in our body, they have flowers that look like a lady finger, and they even give them those kind of names. They have flowers that look like your eyeball with the white, the iris, the retina, and everything. And that really blew my mind. You could go in nature and actually build a human body using plants. That tripped me out. But that's how connected we are. And right now, nature is out of whack and humans are out of whack. I mean, we under a heat wave in one area. Another part of the world is burning up. Out in California, in Utah and stuff, they burning down. Some people flooded. We in hurricane season. And as far as hurricanes, even my mama just used to say, is God work, let him do his work, get in a safe place. And so
That reminds
people,
me of a time when I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I
go
had to
ahead.
say this. It reminds me of a time when old folks used to turn off all electricity during storms.
Yeah, I
Turn
still
off.
do. What you talking
Mhm.
about?
My
There was a
grandma's a
degree of
firm believer
respect
on that.
that they showed to nature.
My mama say, God talk and sit down and shut up. I used to go
Mhm.
hide under the dining room table during a thunderstorm. We haven't really had, I've noticed the thunderstorms are not as severe today with the thunder and lightning, but this year it seems to be coming back to me. I watch patterns naturally. I'm a pattern person. I don't know why. But I would hide. You go to sleep. You cover up mirrors. You cut off the TV and the radio. It was respect. Like you said, it was respect. And my children still do it today, and my grandchildren. I'll be like, get up, aim.
Mhm.
But
When we talked about like when we talk about like respecting knowledge and the elders, the people who are still here that can still tell us something and teach us, no matter if it's people that we know or strangers. Um, there's this. I'm gonna still go back and find this lady. I went to a nursery and I know Divine Prince. I know you got a fig tree, and I know we all talked about fig trees before. But I went to a nursery and to go get some fertilizer for my citrus trees. And there was this a older lady that was working there in the sun and everything, watering the plants and all that stuff. And she was like, "How may I help you?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm just here to find some fertilizer for my citrus trees and just da da da." And she was just, I don't know what it is about her or about me, but for some reason I must have been drawn to her. But she wanted to like talk to me about these different fertilizer, different plants and trees and stuff. And she brought me to a fig tree and she was telling me a story. She was like, "Have you ever tried one of these? Like, try growing one of these?" And I was telling her, I'm like, "Yeah, my grandma had them. I got relatives who live on the property. Some of them cut the trees down, just things like that. I heard, had them when I was little." And she was an older black lady, probably in her 70s, maybe approaching 80s. And she was like, "I think you should get this tree." Now the tree looked like it didn't have nothing on it. Like it looked like it was just a bunch of branches. Maybe a
Mhm.
little, probably about 4 leaves on the end of them. So I was like, why this specific one? And so she walked with me. She said, "Come take a walk with me." She's telling me a story about the Bible, how the on the fig tree, is a biblical, protection, like running the whole thing down about the whole background of a fig tree. And she was telling me the slaves and how the ancestors at the time they didn't have much of nothing. All they had was figs and the fruits that they grew. So by the time she told the whole story to me, she picked out one. She said, "I want you to get this tree, specifically this one." And so I bought it. And I'm like, I'm gonna buy it just because I want this to be an honor. You personally picked it for me. I bought it home and I did exactly what she told me. Did you know that like right now there is like at least 30 figs that grew on there. It's full of leaves and like a lot of them had already turned to be ready. They done dropped about 4 or 5 of them dropped, and the tree ended up becoming a full fruitful tree. And I'm like, I'm gonna have to go back and thank that lady. She must knew what she was talking about.
Every time I hear that story about Adam and Eve and a fig leaf that they wore to hide their nakedness, I always think they must have was itching down because a fig leaf, it will have you itching like poison ivory.
Yes, indeed.
I was like, they had to be itching all over their private parts.
And
Because when
Bianca, I have 3 fig trees, and the story that you all are referencing is in the Bible. Well, another story. It's about the fig tree that didn't bear fruit that was cursed,
Mm-hmm.
and so we often associate fig trees with prosperity, abundance, certainly providing food and substance. My fig trees are relatively young, but they have fruit on them already, especially my Louisiana Celeste.
Yeah, I had picked two of them off of
Figs.
there, and I ate them, and I was scared to eat them because I told her that when I was little, I just remember my grandma having them in the can jars, and it was too sweet, like very sweet and syrupy.
Oh
But
yeah.
she was like, "Oh no, your mind gonna change." She said that was when you was young, but eat them fresh off the tree, and your mind is going to change. Your taste buds should change by now. And I ate it off
Hmm.
the tree, and it was way totally different than what I imagined. It was actually a great experience. It kind of tastes like a pear to me, but that lady must have really knew what she wanted to share some with me and picked a tree and knew what she was talking about and gave me a tree that just produced them really fast from a stick.
Yeah, that sounds like a Celeste. That
Yeah,
sounds
And
like a
that
that's what
Louisiana
it was.
Celeste.
That's what it was.
and figs, I don't know why figs. I never see them in the supermarket. Fresh figs.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I never see them in the supermarket.
they turn and ripe. Once they ripe, they can turn and go bad really quickly. Like I'll
I
see
know.
one on the tree, and Bianca might confirm this from her experience. I'll see one on a tree, and then in 3-4 days, it's starting to turn dark.
Mm-hmm.
At that
Yeah.
point, I usually pick them and eat them because at once they turn purple and dark, they fall, and then they attract
The
rodents
fruit
and
flies and
Yeah.
stuff. I know
fruit
we
flies.
had a huge fig tree, and I used to have to wear a flannel shirt to get up in there and pick the figs. And I would always be in a fig tree. It was huge. You couldn't even see me in there. And my mama would be in another part of the garden and she'd be hollering, "If you fall out that fig tree, you gonna break your back."
Yes, indeed.
And that was she said, if you fall out there, because you couldn't even see me, it was huge. That's how I know how itchy those leaves are. They similar to me to okra. They be
Hmm.
itchy. Oh my God,
Hmm.
they itch you if they touch your skin. But I would be up in there fighting birds and everything, trying to get the figs because my mom would preserve them. And like Bianca say, they'd be so sweet. Oh my God, I love and miss fig preserves the old
And
fashioned way.
yes, yes, and they often got into the tradition of preserving them, dehydrating them, drying them, so that they would last, a greater length of time. Uh, Bianca,
Mm-hmm.
the fig is actually the flower. If you think about plants that flower and then produce a fruit,
Mm-hmm.
except with the fig, it's tiny flowers, tiny clusters of flowers that grow inside the fig. And
Mm-hmm.
so you don't ever see flowers on the tree. You just see the fruit.
The
But if you
fig.
yeah, but if you take one off, cut it open, while it's
You'll
green
see the
even.
tiny yellow flowers.
Hmm. Hmm.
Huh.
Yep.
And so that also might have some effect on why we don't see them in stores, and their ability to last more than
Mm-hmm.
3 or 4 days.
And another thing you touched upon when you were speaking earlier was about around the kitchen table. I also watch patterns. I haven't had a table in my kitchen since before Katrina. Every place I've lived, the kitchen hasn't been able to support a kitchen table until this house I moved into. But when I was growing up in the 70s and the 80s, the kitchen table was the place to be. The kitchen table was the place for all the root work. The women would gather, come in the back doors. Women were always, that was during a time when most women was home. And that's what their conversation would turn around. And I noticed my daughters all came over, and I have a kitchen table in my kitchen now. And they sat down in the kitchen table. And my oldest daughter was talking about a gentleman that, well, her husband, that she was trying to get rid of. And my youngest daughter hollered, oh, he wouldn't be coming to my house. I threw some salt behind him. And I turned my head and looked at her. And the whole conversation went toward what she could do to keep her husband from coming by the house. In root work, the conversation just went there. And I'm like, y'all got some bay leaf? And they say, oh no, mom, I got to get some bay leaf. I got some bay leaf here. Take some bay leaf. I'm putting bay leaf in a Ziploc bag and stuff. But that's what I remember from my childhood. That's how we kept it alive with the younger people. That's how we passed it on. We had our cloves, our bay leaf, our cinnamons, our salts. All of that was already in the kitchen at our arm's reach. And a conversation would always go to root work because somebody always had a problem. Be it cats around the house, be it their mother-in-law, be it their children. And the conversation always went to what to do. They had candles, long white candles, green candles in the kitchen drawer that we kept there in case the lights went out. You know how fake the lights is in New Orleans without a hurricane. We always had those tapered candles, and somebody need a white candle. Here you go, white candle coming out the kitchen drawer. That's how we kept the traditions alive. That's how we passed it on to our young ladies when they got old enough to come into the kitchen. That's how we told them, oh, my baby constipated. Oh, give him some mustard greens, some pot liquor. So-and-so got diarrhea. Girl, look, take this cheese, the chunk of cheese. Let him eat that cheese. Make a cheese sandwich for him. You know, we passed on knowledge of root work and hoodoo at the kitchen table. But these modern houses and the redesigned houses, the renovated houses, they took the kitchen away. They took the kitchen away. So now when you sit in the living room, you don't have those conversations. You're talking about what's on TV. You're talking about Tyler Perry, Madea, everything else. But look like the minute you sit at that kitchen table, you go to telling all your business. All your personal business at that kitchen table. But it's time to close out now, everyone. And I would like to thank everyone for coming to the show tonight. We really appreciate our listening audience. I'm going to turn it over to the Divine Prince.
And thank you so much to
recognize all our listening audience.
Thank you kindly, beloved. Bianca Jasmine from our house, from the sources on Instagram, shouting you out. Thank you so much, Jasmine. Ho for ho, Jasmine, for checking in with us tonight. We certainly appreciate you. And to all of the source members who actually listen to this podcast, we certainly are thankful and appreciative. And we certainly are thankful for all of our listeners and participants by way of our various Facebook pages, groups, and profiles. Certainly our LinkedIn listenership and participants. Thank you so much to our YouTube audience, our international and regional and local listenership by way of Twitter X, and always thankful for those who show up and participate by way of Instagram. Being Jubilani, thank you so much for your continued support. Dazzling Hair Express Supply, greetings to you and yours. OG Slew, we certainly appreciate your participation and support. Unicorn and Scotch joined us. We certainly appreciate you. Panky Steinex, thank you so much for joining us. Ho for ho, Jasmine, we certainly appreciate you, beloved sister of the house. Empress Niamar, thank you so much for your continual support and participation. Dreams Come True Realty joined us. Dreams Come True Realty joined us. Thank you so much. P. Arianzo joined us. We certainly do appreciate you. And we invite you to come back and join us again on tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, or weekdays, Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. Please utilize our QR code in the upper left corner of your screen with the little Streamyard ducky head in it, or you can use our Streamyard URL, which is scrolling on the screen at this time. And we invite your support, participation, donations, sponsorship, support of our continuing GoFundMe as we now prepare for New Orleans International Voodoo Day Year 4. All is truly and indeed a blessing. We're grateful for your listenership and your continued support and participation. Until next time, all is truly and indeed a blessing. Ayibobo, Asheo, and good night.
Good night, everyone.
Ifuru this year, total cash out, total shutdown. Aye na your the blessings, aye na your focus. We can secure the bag. Chipate the mahamaka, ochipe mono saja.
Ego di mwage lwanyata, una di mwage lwanyata. Abusi wanyi di mwa, tukweli sabiko. Makani gosi munu, wolobo de mweba mole. Ndi mwoge nubo. Ogaranya na suso, odogu wana lese neke nebo. Ibate go di Colombia, ifuna doing na suso.
Please, allow me to show you something.
They say I'm crazy and that might be true. I got this white in my DNA, yeah, I'm coming for you. It's time we turn the tables, flip these motherfuckers on you. I wanna see you hanging from trees. It's time you pay for your dirt and your showtime. You created the monster, you created the beast. Now all this savagery you just gon' reap. I'm coming home, daddy, to the plantation. And I'm taking the lives of everybody, including the children, on some Nat Turner. Oh, do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. I met my girl Harriet at the gate. If you wanna know how she doing, yeah, she's straight. But she had one question: when we gon' get up? All that talking tough, yeah, we don't walk it tough. She got it locked and loaded, got that piece up on her side. She looked me in my eyes and said, "Mitch, you ready to ride?" Moving forward, you gotta use both eyes. Watch your front and watch your back. Keep your hands up on your gas. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. He sit at the table, but he don't order no bacon. He greet me in those words, assalamu alaikum. Got them glasses on his face and them waves in his head. He go by the name of Detroit Westside. He looks me in my eye and says, "You only get one try. Know that your biggest opposition will come from the inside. I know you wanna love them all, but don't even try, because they'll smile up in your face while plotting your demise." Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down.